I'm on the Personnel and Finance Committee, and last summer, as one of our duties was that we had to approve accepting stewardship funds for some land, I believe, in McCarthy Park. And at that time, several of the folks that you see in the room tonight came because they were concerned, because as part of the state money and as part of accepting the state money, we had to allow trapping on those lands that were purchased partially with that state money. And at that time, several of these people came and they showed us photos, testimonials of all the things that go along with trapping. There's a woman that came that showed pictures of her dog that died in a trap. There was a lot of heartbreaking stories about that, and so much so that it did go to the full board, and I was the only person that voted against accepting the money. Therefore, I felt like there was nothing we could do about this, and I was later approached and said, well, you know, the county owns a lot more land than what is done with the stewardship funds, and those lands, we don't have this tie to it, that we don't have this requirement that we have to allow the trapping on these public lands. So therefore, that's what this ordinance amendment is about. And I am not sure if you guys have in front of you, there was a substitute that was later drafted.
Yes.
That also included the wildlife areas. And again, this is specifically related just to the areas where it does not have the state money tied to it. So this is the stuff that is quote unquote in our control. We're not going to lose any type of funding if we were to pass this. And if you read the paper today, you could see that I was quoted in there about this, and they really got it right. No, I shouldn't jump on that. They really got it right that there's two main issues that I see here. One is the animal cruelty issues or the animal rights issues. And although we can specify it's a live trap, and we can specify that they get checked every day and all that kind of stuff, it's still, accidents can happen. And they can maybe get caught in those traps as they're going in. Not all traps are created equal. Also, if they don't get checked every single day, an animal can sit there and suffer for a day or more. And can you imagine being stuck in a trap out in the cold like this, or in the extreme heat of the summertime? And so I feel it's an animal rights and animal cruelty issue. I don't think that trapping is still necessary as it maybe once was. But then the other issue is the safety issue. You know, lots of us have pets. The dogs can get off of the area that they're supposed to be at. Kids can wander off where they're supposed to be at. And for that matter, how many adults actually stick to exactly where they're supposed to be at? And so people could get hurt or injured, or in the case like what happened to that lady's dog, it can get killed. And now I know that passing this isn't going to solve the problem, because there's still going to be plenty of areas, the areas that were bought with stewardship fund money, or the state parks, or plenty of other areas where there can be trapping. But at least in these areas that are owned by Dane County, where we don't have those ties to it, we can say that we don't want trapping allowed.
It seems to us, of course, I'm a member of the Alliance for Animals. I'm the co-executive director. And certainly all of our members, I'm here just representing myself tonight, but certainly all the people I know. And as we have had past meetings, when we've met with you, and a lot of people have spoken out about the trapping issue. We've met with staff, we've met with a number of people on the committee. Actually, I think that the Sweet River purchase, I think we support this idea that the county's going out and trying to safeguard wild areas. And we understand that it comes along, in our estimation, with this very bitter pill that the state's requiring there be trapping on that piece of property. So we see that this is an escalation of, over time, that the county is going to be constantly acquiring more properties. And along with that, there's going to be these increased opportunities for trapping. So as those opportunities go up, it seems like the county could do something to try to mitigate that to some degree. As we met with people in the past, they said, we really wish we didn't have to do this, but it's just something that comes along with the money. Well, there are already pieces of property that are controlled by the county, under your control, where you actually could say, well, we're forced to do this as we accept the Nelson Knowles funds. So let's look around and see these other places where we really don't have to do that. And let's offset the damage, the risk, so to speak, to the degree that we can. And it seems a reasonable thing to do. I think just what happened today was approving this purchase. So really what it does is it opens up a new area for people to go in and trap in, because you're required to let them do that. And so every time you get a new piece of property, that acreage goes up. That's 1 minute. So many people that we know have a very strong satisfaction knowing that animals in the wild aren't having to worry about traps. I'll never go to some of the parks in Africa and Alaska and the wilderness areas, but there's people that find great value in knowing that there are places out there where more or less animals are living their lives fairly undisturbed. And we think that there's those interests. I think you only need to look at the amount of food that's sold this time of year by mounds and farm and fleet. People are just filling their feeders left and right because people have a deep interest in seeing wildlife. We want to go out and see a bobcat run across the path. So we think that it would be nice to know that as they're doing that, I'm not seeing an animal that perhaps is going to be running off into the bush and get caught in a trap. So it diminishes my interest and my value, my satisfaction when I go into those areas. So I've asked you to offset those things. There's a constant growing amount of acreage for trapping. So this gives you a chance to limit what's to the degree that you can. So
thank you.
Thank you very much.
First of all, I brought a trap along with me, which is called a dog-proof trap. One of the same traps that is legalized now to use in all state parks. This is a dog-proof trap. It's never caught a dog, never caught a cat, never. It's a dog-proof trap. A human cannot set it off. When this trap is set, I cannot reach down in and set this trap off. Another trap that is legalized uses a cable restraint that Wisconsin has done a lot of research on. Never ever has there ever been a necropsy score on a dog caught in a cable restraint. In fact, when we did our research, one was caught 4 times and turned loose, came back and got caught again. So it's a perfectly safe trap. The trap that some of the people who were talking about that kill traps are now legal to be used in state parks. So by that, I am speaking against the bill in favor of continuing to trap in state parks. We can set these traps that are legal to be set in state traps in state parks, and these people can walk right past them. They'll never know they're there.
What kind of animal is it designed to trap?
Raccoon. Designed to catch a raccoon, once in a while a possum or a skunk. It's always designed to catch.
I use lake hole traps in my research. And what I would like to say is that I am in favor of banning trapping in county parks. And I can tell you firsthand that I've seen a sandhill crane in that trap. If people are out trapping coyotes, they won't use that trap. A border collie is a 35 to 45 pound small dog, exactly nearly identical genetic makeup of that of a coyote. If a coyote can be trapped, dogs under 40 pounds can be trapped. I just wanted to also say that it takes an enormous toll on riparian ecology. Fish, it takes a toll, especially trapping of muskrats, beavers. It also can hurt songbirds. I also brought some peer-reviewed literature, if you want to see it, from the American Veterinary Medical Association, and studies done that 67% of the animals caught in traps are not the intended and target animals. I don't believe that trapping is fair chase. Trapping also kills endangered and threatened species. I've also worked on the pine marten study, and I can't tell you how many of my study subjects were lost in indiscriminate trapping, which, when you're a researcher, is frustrating. In this area, we have several endangered species that inhabit our Dane County parks, and I've made note of that as well. Traps are baited and will attract pets. They're not just sitting out there like, oh, I'm a coyote, I stumbled into it. They are baited, and even children. I think there's also something to be said for the safety of a child in there, and they see an animal in a trap, and children are going to see that suffering and inherently want to free that animal. You're exposing children to rabies from raccoons and skunks, along with I can give you a million zoonotic diseases if you want. I just wanted to also let you know that trapping costs us millions lost in revenue due to the indirect impact on water resources and tourism. Also even spending money on trying to bring animals back from the endangered species list. Traps are poorly regulated. They are self-regulating. They are concealed, baited, and no warning signs are required by law. Traps can be set year-round and almost anywhere on our public lands. With rare exceptions, trapping is not done for livelihood anymore. Recreation is wonderful as long as it's responsible and not predicated by suffering. Trapping uses a public resource for personal gain without contributing significantly to the public interest, as does hunting. The state and county income from trapping is negligible. The costs outweigh the benefits. I also wanted to let you know trapping is not an effective management tool. It causes more problems than it resolves. Trapping on public land should be regulated to public safety and scientific research and only done by public employees for the better public interest. About 80% of Wisconsin is public owned, and a very significant amount in Dane County, and that should be enough.
What I wanted to hear more about was the issue you raised about impact on water resources
Sure.
of trapping, because it wasn't clear to me where you're going with that.
Okay, sure. With riparian habitats, muskrats, beavers, mammals that essentially live near the water, coyotes. Coyotes keep those numbers down, and those animals help with wetland restoration by damming up parts of creeks. This is especially true in southern Wisconsin, although the beaver is not making the greatest comeback that we would have liked to have seen. When you have a healthy riparian area, you're going to bring back things such as bluebirds that are in jeopardy, risk. So it's not just removing this one animal affects the entire ecology of the park. So, you know, if we're striving to have true conservation, I just don't believe in areas that we've set aside for public recreation that we should be trying to bring it back to as natural as a state as we can. And I can tell you that fur-bearing animals, even in Dane County, numbers are still low. So it does affect, it affects fish populations. You know, marshes are natural filters. And without beavers, muskrats, and some of the mammals that contribute to that, you know, you're damaging things. I can tell you that in the E-way that's happening now, in the Nine Springs E-way.
You also mentioned, I guess it'd be inadvertent trapping of endangered species.
Correct.
Could you go into a little bit more detail on that?
Sure, yeah. Well, you know, when you're talking about, especially in Dane County, we have 9 animals that are endangered, and we have 7 that are threatened. Things such as the Blandings turtle that resides in Dane County. That's kind of one of the things with the riparian areas. We can catch animals that there aren't really an abundance of. I can give you my area of expertise is not in southern Wisconsin, I can tell you that. But you know, when I was working on research with the Mexican gray wolf, I can tell you how many traps we set to recapture our released animals, and it ended up with everything under the sun. Bears, dogs, coyotes, and especially when you're trapping for something like a coyote. Coyote and Mexican gray wolves are actually not that different in size. So, you know, there is an example of where that could happen. I guess if that makes sense. Mink in Dane County are at very, very low numbers, almost critical. So mink can be caught in that trap that you're trying to get a raccoon or weasel or skunk from. It is against the law to tamper with a trap. But I'll tell you what, if there's a group of 12-year-old boy Cub Scouts on a trip to one of our county parks and they see something struggling, even though they know they're not supposed to. I was 12 once. You know, my concern would be children seeing an animal that's trapped, especially if you only need to check your traps every 48 hours, or even every 24 hours, that someone's going to stumble upon a heavily used area, upon a trap, try to free an animal, and actually put themselves in jeopardy with do not exist.